Okay, we probably all heard that. This breakout room is now being recorded. We are official. So let's get started walking through these options. Thank you for joining me in this room. I think this is a really important area of the corridor. There's a lot happening here. So this section of Broadhead has a density of daily destinations. We have the junior and senior high schools, the community park, shopping center, and other attractions. So we know we need to make this area more safe and appealing for pedestrians and bikes, as well as vehicle traffic. We have kids walking from the school to stores across the street to get ice cream. We have people crossing Broadhead to walk down to the park. We know there are some sight distance issues and a need for traffic calming. There's some speeding problems. And we've heard a demand for a left turn lane to relieve some of the backups that happen in this area. So before we get into these individual options for different locations, I want to point out that we're suggesting some signage and pavement markings up here at Forge in that vicinity to calm traffic. And back through these neighborhoods, we're suggesting more specifically carving out routes for bike traffic as an alternative to riding along Broadhead Road, which we've heard can be dangerous. We want to strengthen connections specifically for people walking between the high school and the shopping center. And we're also suggesting pedestrian improvements in the area a little bit further south here, down by Harding and Cleveland. But most of what we need your feedback on today has to do with ideas for Laird, Longview, and the shopping center. So Laird, first of all, if it's helpful to orient yourselves, the north arrow is a little skewed here, meaning that this road actually kind of cants up a little, off of what we have it here. But just for the sake of presentation, this shows the intersection of Laird and Broadhead. We've overlaid a potential improvement on top of the existing aerial view of what's there, which is not much. Or if we have any engineers in the room, this is a Florida T type intersection with no signal. So to break it down a bit, if we are looking at this moving from east to west along Broadhead, you can see that there's a bypass lane up on top along Broadhead that allows traffic to keep moving, while some turning left are using this dedicated left turn pocket here onto Laird. People turning left out of Laird have to pay attention only to southbound traffic, which helps address that sight distance issue. Coming from, say, the junior high up here and turning onto Broadhead, your only option would be to turn right. So as you might notice, this removes the ability to jump across Broadhead and stay on Laird. You would have to use Longview if that's what you're going to do to come up that direction. So this may not make sense. Let me put it in the bigger context of how it works. So the intersection we were just looking at is here kind of to the center. These red and blue dotted lines are showing how traffic flow would work, meaning that if you started down here in the park and lived up in the neighborhood, perhaps along Laird Avenue, you jump on Broadhead and would not be able to cross right there. You would take a right, turn onto Longview and loop around. If you live in this neighborhood in one of these homes along Laird and want to go down to the park, you would do the same thing in reverse rather than hopping across the road the way that it is today. Circle Drive is, I think, one way heading out. So this would impact only local traffic, though it could mean that traffic from the junior high would be routed out that way. So the option we're looking at here, the trade-off would be creating gaps in traffic, making things a little more efficient, making things a little easier to see, deciding whether that's worth the trade-off of getting a little more traffic coming through this neighborhood. We looked at the increase of what that diversion traffic would be, and it's not substantial. I think it's fewer than 300 vehicles, but depending on your experience living there or what this neighborhood is like, perhaps that is a lot. So do you have any questions or comments on how this works or what this looks like? Any initial reactions?
This is Jeanette. The way that they have the stop sign as you're leaving the junior high, that intersection would definitely need to be improved, you know, where the stop sign is, because it's not very clear. Most people stop before the walkway.
Mhm.
Don't stop at the walkway, they walk after. They don't really stop at the stop sign. The other thing is the buses would then need to be leaving on Laird out to Longview.
Yeah,
And
that's, I think, a
we'll
serious
talk
question.
about that,
If bus traffic is coming out that way, is that going to be a problem? It may be.
because the swings from Laird onto Marata, I'm not sure, I mean, that's another blind spot for them pulling out,
Mhm.
to go all the way around. That would probably, by doing this, it would probably help to not have a crossing guard there, because the
Mhm.
crossing guard will often be up at where Laird and Circle is. And
Yes.
then she will often go down to Broadhead to relieve traffic. But there's also a crossing guard during the senior high times at Longview and Broadhead.
Yeah, we have seen the crossing guard hold traffic and let the buses out in one beautifully efficient stream.
Yes,
Um,
because she has also let traffic coming up Laird from the park and let them out, because I used to go that way all the time, and that would back up as well at that time of day.
Yeah, and Jenny's, when those buses come out of Circle or Laird, they cross straight across from the junior high to take students to Kane Road. They live on Kane Road.
Okay.
Yeah, they do. Okay.
Yes, we'd be taking them for a bit of a loop.
Yeah, and there's one house on Laird near the bottom, near the park. Or I'm assuming that that's the only one that they drop off of, that because there's two houses at the very top of Laird that you can see the buildings on the map.
Mhm.
If they had to go around the Kane Road and enter Kane Road from Broadhead, that might not be too bad, but it would add time.
Right, right. That's helpful. Is there anything else in particular you'd like to see happen at this intersection, Laird in particular?
Make it
Not-
right turn only.
Out of Laird,
Yeah. Make it right turn only.
that works, except there's also no direct route when you're coming up that hill to
That's true
do the
too.
one way through the junior high when you're dropping off kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Yeah, that, other than that, it wouldn't be that huge of a deal, because most people use Laird as a cut through,
Hmm. They do, absolutely.
and the road does not handle the traffic in the
No.
condition that it's in.
No.
That is true. By doing this, it makes Laird a little bit more comfortable to use, which may increase the traffic,
Mhm. Indeed.
which would put pressure on you, Jamie.
Yeah. Well, the biggest
Yeah.
problem is the elevation coming out of Laird to,
Yep.
if the elevation was different, it wouldn't be as dangerous. It's just the way you're sitting it, trying to pull out onto Broadhead from Laird, sitting down, a little bit of rain, you spin, somebody's flying across Broadhead or coming down Broadhead from Longview side. I think the big thing is Longview is where the problem all starts, because if somebody's not turning and it's wide open, that's where the speeding, if there's nobody making a right-hand turn, slowing down, making a right hand into Longview, then the speed is everybody's still accelerating and you try to pull up out of there. That's truly where the problem is.
Kind of a little bit of a crest in the road in that stretch too, isn't there? Isn't that
Mhm.
kind of
Yep.
block your vision
Yeah, you
too?
Yeah,
You can't
Yeah.
even see Longview from pulling out of Laird.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there's a little bit of a rise there. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What I've seen is drivers are using the lane into Longview. People are using that to make a left onto Broadhead. They're going around the traffic that's going out Longview, and they're using that lane to make a left onto Broadhead. And that's very dangerous.
All right, incredibly helpful comments. Thank you. Well, perhaps then we move to Longview, consider some options there. Our other questions kind of pertain to the area in the vicinity of the shopping center, which in a way includes Longview. We think it would make sense to add a signal either in this location or a block or two south. So that's where we're looking for feedback. On Longview, adding a signal as shown here would improve the level of service from what it currently is, an F, to a C. That's a qualitative measure of how well the intersection works. So in this case, it would work better with a signal than it does now. So as long as we're kind of comparing places where the signal could go, another option would be to instead add it at Cherry Way. So that would mean you'd see traffic routing down through Washington Street. Both Cherry and Washington are privately owned. The idea would be that these are made public and this becomes a more central entrance to the shopping center.
That's a good idea.
Maybe a bit safer access for pedestrians we know are walking here, the kids walking down from the school to the shopping center, people walking across to get ice cream.
Sorry.
Hey, no, this is a conversation you can
The
jump in
homes-
wherever you see fit.
The homes on that part of Longview, I'm sure would appreciate this.
Mhm.
I don't know how easily it would be to talk to the shopping center owner and make the arrangements to make those that amount public, because it's already a struggle getting him to maintain the shopping center.
Right away. Mhm.
That's
This
a
would
good
be
point.
great for the shopping center, I think.
Yeah, we've heard that he is amenable to improvements, but I'm not sure what that means. So that would require a little more investigation, I think.
Jeanette, he doesn't want anyone using that right away.
And I don't understand.
That's what I don't understand
He
either.
would if it was ours,
Yeah, that's for sure,
Mhm.
Jamie.
because he wouldn't have to take care of it.
Yeah.
Not that he
Right.
takes care of it now, but
Yeah.
it would be out of his hands. He would look a lot better. It would open up the development of, I think, of the rest of his property where the old ice hockey rink was, deck hockey.
Right. Right.
And it would relieve a lot of stormwater issues that he has too, if he could.
Yeah, there's a lot of stormwater issues there.
Is the
Mhm.
township still trying to talk with him at all? Do they still have an open dialogue with him?
Yeah, I talked to him. I've talked to him about this project and different things, and he's definitely open.
It's encouraging. So kind of in a similar vein, the third possible location for the signal would be at what is now, I think, the official entrance to the shopping center. We noticed when we were doing the field view, it doesn't really stand out as an entrance. So adding a signal here would benefit the development. It would also shift traffic up along the storefronts, which could be good or bad. Chad on our team compared this to the Miracle Mile in Monroeville, which has a similar setup. So the question would be, if you had a traffic signal placed at one of these locations, where would it be most advantageous? We think any of these three options would function fine. It comes down to being a matter of access, whether the signal is most needed where the traffic already is at Longview in closer proximity to those community amenities. Whether it's needed to create an entrance and traffic through the shopping center where we know people are kind of walking already. That would be the Hopewell Shopping Center, I guess. Cherry would be kind of the compromise between the two that incorporates an existing informal walking route, helps the development, maybe pulls traffic down a bit from Longview. What do you think? What jumps out at you?
From a
I-
safety standpoint, in front of the shopping center is just a disaster. That's why I'm thinking more of a light because of all those turns.
Mhm.
I don't remember if you remember, Jenny, when we were talking in the steering committee last week before, whenever that was, we had also brought up, and I know the shopping center owner has talked about one single entrance between south of Cherry Way, between those two buildings.
Here.
Just be one in and out. And I think that would relieve a lot of the traffic if the safety concerns. And if you'd put that in the middle, you're not disturbing the entrance to Brewster's, West Banco. It's actually everybody be at a slowdown turning into those businesses that are right all smack together.
Yeah, and that would address this Miracle Mile problem we have of creating a conflict between a stream of traffic and people trying to get from their cars into stores. That makes that a little kinder.
Because if you look, I mean, there's no curbs. You have that little bit right in front of the shopping center that's got the grass strip and a guide rail through there. Everything
Mhm.
else is open. Just turn in wherever you want. You know, it's kind of a mosh posh.
Yeah.
Including the Fez. I mean, it's all that banquet hall when there's 400 people there for a wedding. You can turn in 8 different ways.
Mhm.
Would those businesses like the West Banco, Brewster's, and then that doctor's office be able to have a connector between their parking lots so that if people are going between them, or to have some other way to have them access Broadhead at a light?
We talked about that also. I'm not sure if how receptive they would be of giving up right away territory, but especially Brewster's because
Yeah, the baseball.
patio is so close to the right of way anyway.
Yeah, I mean, conceptually, I love it. The fewer people you have pulling off of and onto Broadhead Road, the better.
And you have an elevation issue if you would try to enter those businesses from the rear.
Mhm.
It's kind of a drop off.
Well, depending on where the light goes for the shopping center, if the combination of the light and the T at Laird, that would push anyone who wanted to turn left, or is that correct? There would be some people that would have to go all the way around Laird through the shopping center and out to the light. So the combination of the two would need to be considered to see how many people would then try to find a shortcut out, defeating
Yes,
the
that's a
whole
great point.
purpose.
Unintended consequences, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll drop our link again for the survey in the chat in case any of our new faces would like to take the survey. Hello, Josh. Thanks for joining us. We were just talking about the best place to place a traffic signal, given the option of Longview or somewhere leading into the Hopewell Shopping Center, whether it's Cherry, the existing Hopewell Shopping Center access, or Jamie suggested perhaps between these buildings would make more sense. A little north of Fox's.
Yeah, no, that's another option as well. I think the original thought there was Longview, obviously because of the school, and I'm probably just reiterating what Jenny just said here, but then obviously the Hopewell Shopping Center, creating that one entrance into the shopping center for all those businesses as well, and potentially helping with the redevelopment as well. Once, you know, these businesses tend to see a traffic signal, especially a new one, that can help actually revitalize some of these older shopping centers. But that's also a good idea as well, Jamie. We can certainly take a look at that as well. So.
And the map is labeled incorrectly. The building where it says Fox's, that is the old Blockbuster Video building. I believe Fox's is closest to Cherry Way.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
What are you doing? Did you bring me my water and my little red thing?
I would hesitate putting a traffic light at Longview. It's convenient as that would be, it
Mhm.
would really mess up those houses for residential, for them being able to get in and out of their driveways. Because
Speed
they,
queuing here, you think?
yeah, because they're just so close. They would be too close to the intersection. That would end up holding up traffic if they were going in and out too.
Mhm. Yeah, I know we looked into a wide variety of options for this location, including a roundabout. You know, you'll see these if you happen to pop into the other rooms here and there. I'm assuming here it was a grade issue that made that less than viable.
I mean, I'm thinking your biggest improvement for a cost effective way is a right-hand turn lane into Longview and a right-hand turn lane out of Longview. Because you're just widening, you know, it's making this a little wider. Now, granted, there's utilities and poles but I don't think a light is truly necessary there.
So to turn left, you need to go through the shopping center.
No, you turn left where?
From Longview onto Broadhead. Is that what you're saying?
No, you turn left out of Longview on the Broadhead. Right hand
Okay.
could go, it needs to be a little wider there because sometimes people don't stop. Or if they stop, they've taken up a couple of those lanes. So a widening of the right-hand turn out of Longview,
Oh,
can kind of just, they can see better.
yeah. Yeah, because we're almost doing the right hand, left hand at the end of that intersection now anyway.
Almost, yeah.
That's the unspoken rule.
Yeah. Okay.
Room for this right there. These people that are over here, they come here and you can't see.
Yeah, you mentioned right away. So I think a slide that we have in maybe most of these presentations is just a little bit of context about, you know, the give and take. There are a lot of constraints along the corridor in terms of what's available and the space that we can make available for some of these improvements. So this is perhaps most relevant in Aliquippa, but it's something that we have to consider here as well. So I think, let's see. This
Give me a cheeseburger with ketchup and pickles.
this improvement would require, you know, a minimal acquisition of right of way. So I think throughout here, nothing we've proposed would be too demanding, but that can be a constraint as we consider these options along the corridor.
Yeah, I know we.
So is part of this also doing widening the berm for a walkway through this section on Broadhead? Or are you trying to keep all pedestrians off of Broadhead in this section?
I got an idea.
So let's see.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we talked about
generally
from junior high to the shopping center, having sidewalks from the junior high to that was part of the thing to connect the schools with the shopping center.
mhm.
Broadhead?
Yes, so generally speaking, along the corridor, we're looking for opportunities to add sidewalks or, you know, create safer sidewalks in retail areas and areas with destinations and amenities, especially in places where we know people are already walking based on our data and what we're hearing from people. So certainly we know this is kind of a concentration of those areas where we have a commercial center and then these attractions. And people are already walking to them. So I don't know that we have proposed sidewalks along Broadhead here, but we're looking for ways to reinforce and make safer pedestrian routes. I know certainly between these destinations, so between the high school, for instance, and the shopping center.
Did they remove the walking path from the high school? I know the chain link is up, but did they remove the walking path between the high school and beside Coons? I still see people coming up that way, but that's not a maintained path, is it? From the apartments over?
I'm not aware, but we could check that out.
Okay. The Scotswood, where that's written,
Mhm.
the road around the high school near the old entrance on that straight stretch that heads out back to Longview,
Mhm.
there was a walking path from the school that you could get over to the Coons Shopping Center without having to go on roads. I don't know how grown up it is anymore, but I believe people just walk there. It wasn't as if anyone gave authorization or had it set up.
Mhm.
The Scott Woods apartment put a fence up, so
Yeah, between the school and
they don't
there.
want those people walking through.
Yeah, but even walking around the drive, you know, if they walk up out of the school and then turn in by the apartments, I think there's still a walking path that you
Yeah.
can go from the apartments up to Coons.
But that's not on a,
No, that's why I wasn't sure
that
if
wouldn't
that
be
was
funded.
something anyone was maintaining or not.
um,
Are there sections here where you think sidewalks would be needed, appropriate, or used along Broadhead?
If for my kids, if there was still, if there was a sidewalk, unless it was an official sidewalk with a berm, and not just a wide shoulder, I would, if it was a wide shoulder, I'd still have them walk on Laird and into the side entrance. I wouldn't have them go on Broadhead.
Yeah, okay.
It's not safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for that reason, we have kind of placed our bike routes off Broadhead, meaning that we're looking for parallel routes, as parallel as can be, in locations with fewer potential conflicts and slower speeds and a little bit more space.
What were you talking about doing near Forge? Right, almost right in front of the high school? Were you
Yeah,
doing-
so it's blocked by this yellow block here that says Laird, but Forge under there.
Mhm.
So the thought was, somebody raised a question in a previous meeting about, could we do like school zone lights and signage in this section of Broadhead? And I think there are some programmatic issues that deal with that and funding and what happens when you designate something as an official school zone. But whether or not that's an option, kind of a low-hanging fruit thing would be to do advanced intersection signs and pavement markings in an attempt to slow things down, starting at Forge Road. You know, notifying drivers they're entering this area where people are walking and, you know, caution needs to be exercised.
Okay, because there are already flashing signs. I don't know who programs them, but I think drivers would be more in tune to them
Mhm.
if, you know, if school is delayed or they're on an alternate schedule, that they really are only flashing when the school is being let out. That's kind of what I see as an issue, because people know that the kids had a half day, but yet the lights are flashing in the afternoon. And they're not
Yes.
flashing in the afternoon when they do have a half day.
They do it.
Yeah. And across, I mean, that neighborhood, I don't think there's too many kids in that neighborhood now, but there's still a decent number that walk over. And I don't think a crosswalk would be safe.
Mhm.
You know, it almost has to be at Clark.
Let me ask you, as long as I have you, about bus stops along this stretch. We know along a lot of the corridor, the bus stops are just kind of a patch of space where you stand and wait for the bus. So we're recommending, I think in most cases, at least a standing pad, if not a shelter, and some nicer transit amenities. Are there places in this area where that's more needed? Are there stops you know that are more popular, or places where you see people waiting for the bus?
So you're talking about the Beaver County buses
Mhm.
rather than school buses, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Honestly, I don't remember seeing too many Beaver County buses. I don't think they go into the shopping center.
No, they don't. No,
I think they drop off at Coons.
I hardly ever see them.
same here. I only see Dart.
Yeah,
Well, that's maybe what I see.
Yeah, it isn't dark.
Okay.
I mean, that would be great anywhere that the Beaver County buses are willing to go. I know that that would be really nice, closer to Mill Street and the Aliquippa Shopping Center.
Yes.
Maybe the Hopewell Shopping Center would get more traffic if the buses did go there, and I'm not sure if there's a reason specifically why they do not. Other than there's really, you know, the shopping center is really pretty sad. It needs it needs some help.
It sure does.
Is there anything we haven't discussed that you would like to see happen in this area of the township? Could be easy, short-term stuff, or the big dream, long-term stuff that we want to at least get going on planning in order to make a reality as soon as the studies can be done and the money is found.
Jenny, I have something.
Yes.
At Broadhead, where the BP station is,
Where the
there
light is
a
now.
huge hole. And when it rains, it's a flood zone there. That is very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, just general maintenance of businesses along Broadhead. No
Right.
matter what township they're in or municipality they're in, is really bad.
It is.
It does not look presentable. I mean, even just the safety issue aside, it's not presentable. It looks like
No.
this is not a place that cares a bit about their community.
Exactly. It's not the Broadhead I knew when I was a kid. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And, you know, the neighborhoods down by, what are they? The President Streets closer to the cemetery.
Mhm.
I don't know if they would,
I don't
like
eat those
between Our
buffalo.
Lady of Fatima,
I got sick on it.
and over by the cemetery, those streets, if that would be a benefit to, if not having a sidewalk, have a designated walking area.
Okay.
I only know one person that lives in that neighborhood anymore. To ask them.
Mhm.
That intersection there is very intriguing.
Mhm.
It's just the ramifications of doing that need to be thought out.
Definitely. Yeah, that's why these conversations are so important. We need people to help us fill in the context and understanding the behaviors of the way traffic moves and why.
Yes, my name is Russell. I'm just going late. It looks like you can't make a left turn from Laird to southbound Broadhead, is that correct?
Yes. So I'm going to pull up my notes here and make sure I'm not describing this incorrectly. So yes, we have moving east to west. There's this bypass lane up top, allows traffic to keep moving while others use this dedicated left turn here. But it is not possible to jump across Broadhead if you're trying to move north or south on Laird. And Laird would be coming from, the junior high or this neighborhood up here, turning onto Broadhead would be right turn only.
So to jump across or make a left, you'd have to go back to Longview and come out the next direction.
Yes, you would. Yeah, we have it here
Okay.
in the red and blue dotted lines.
I see.
So it's, yeah, a bit of a trade-off, the safety or efficiency advantages of this improvement versus the burden of additional traffic on this neighborhood or the inconvenience of folks or potentially buses being routed around in this loop.
Yes, I agree. I see that. This is Russell again. My only long term would be to somehow direct Laird over to Longview through those two properties there as a possible four-way intersection.
Oh,
And yeah, again, that would be something to consider for the future.
mm-hmm.
Could you also scroll through the other options for that section of road?
Yeah, so Laird, this is kind of what we're looking at. We were looking for comment on this particular configuration, but open to any other suggestions. And I appreciate that one in particular. It's something I'm not sure we considered. We'll have to check back and see whether that was on our radar. And then
Understood, that's fine.
for Longview, we are considering whether this is a suitable location for a traffic signal, as shown here, or whether that signal would make more sense further down a bit, either at Cherryway, where we would be creating public right-of-way here and on Washington to bring traffic through this existing parking lot, or third option would be to place the signal instead at the existing entrance to the shopping center. So that, of course, would be of benefit to the development. Longview would be kind of where the traffic is now and in closer proximity to the amenities and the schools up there. Cherry is kind of the compromise. And then Jamie also suggested perhaps an option might be to place the signal or an entrance between Cherry and Hopewell. Might alleviate some problems of carrying traffic right across the frontages here in the shopping center.
That sounds intriguing, yes.
I would be tempted to not even consider the traffic light where you've marked the main entrance to the shopping center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I asked our engineer friends today, is there an optimal arrangement? Is there like one most advantageous placement for this signal from an engineering standpoint? And it works fine in all three locations. So it kind of is a matter of access and, where it functions best in terms of who's being connected to what.
How about a traffic light down by fire station #1 on Broadhead? That way it would be easier if there's a fire and the fire trucks are entering and exiting the fire station.
But that doesn't help with the traffic going in and out of the shopping center.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah,
We need to do something with the shopping center.
yeah.
It definitely, this is a headache for all of us.
Yeah, I think if the solution were easy, it would have been done already, so.
Yeah, for sure. We gotta be geniuses to figure that one out.
Yes, but this conversation has been incredibly helpful. So I have lots of good notes, and then we have the recording that will inform. We'll take it back to the steering committee and let them know what you've said, and they can help us figure out what would be the most advantageous solution.
Definite turn lanes would be a vast improvement.
Mhm.
I'm not so sure about a third lane. That does create its own issues, having that middle lane being shared, by traffic. But these are definitely improvements in that direction. They all look pretty good. I would concur that the Hopewell main shopping center entrance is probably the least of the three.
Mhm.
I would probably go for Longview first and then Cherry, but either one would be fine.
Yeah, I don't think we could do a light at Longview unless something is done at Laird.
Mhm.
That's right.
And depending on what you end up doing at Laird, you may want to limit access on Longview on which direction they'd turn to force people to go to wherever the
Right.
traffic light ends up. But I mean, this is going to be huge disruption for that whole neighborhood on both sides.
Mhm.
To me, I see it as a combo.
Yeah.
If you do something at Laird, you definitely will need to address something at Longview.
Mhm.
Whether or not you do the traffic light at the shopping center now, or that's in a 5-year time when they figure out if they want it at Cherry Way or between Fox and the old Brewster's video, Blockbuster video building.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. The recommendations will have to be complementary. So if we decide to proceed with some solution that looks like this or something like this, we'll need to make sure that it considers what we potentially could do further down.
Jenny, the traffic between Cherry Way and the shopping center, that is where it is really bad at certain times of the day. It
Mhm.
is really bad.
So that's like backed up behind people turning left into the shopping center.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, I know we talked about turning lanes. I just feel that doesn't take the safety aspect out of it. I mean, it doesn't help safety wise with all the businesses that are entering and exiting onto Broadhead right through there. It would definitely relieve traffic, but I mean, I don't know about safety wise.
Right. Yeah.
We need safety for sure.
And I'm all for slowing the traffic down on Broadhead, not truly keeping them accelerating through.
They think that this is a speed zone out
Oh
here.
yeah, I mean, you can look at our police reports
That's for
or
sure.
accident reports.
Oh goodness. Well, there's a lot happening here, so this should be an area where people are paying attention.
You have people like Sandy driving on her phone, trying to get a story to.
That I don't do, Jamie. That's one thing I won't do is talk on the phone while I'm driving.
I know, I got to tease you. You know that.
I know you well enough.
Okay, well, I know we have only about 10 minutes left. So are there any stones left unturned, things we should look into improving in this area in particular, or ideas for these intersections that we haven't discussed?
No, I just think it's a lot of planning.
It is.
It is, yes.
And we got to get businesses on board too.
Mhm. So that's an interesting question. What do you hear? Is there, do you hear feedback or buzz among the business owners here about anything they would like to see happen?
No, I mean, I think they all would like to see a turning lane,
Yeah,
but in the shopping center is looking for a red light because he's lost business. He yells at me all the time, but there was a traffic study done there years ago and it didn't warrant a red light. But now we have more development. You know, Broadhead is a lot busier than it was 20 years ago when the traffic study was done. So he was mad, I guess, at the township because he couldn't get it, but it's a PennDOT road. It's not.
right, yeah.
Yeah, because supposedly a Rite Aid, he just told me Rite Aid went to him 2 years ago and wanted to build a standalone building within the shopping center, and they backed out because of there not being a red light at the.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
I didn't hear that one. Woo!
Is there an ultimate plan for the Hopewell Shopping Center?
Not that I would know, no.
Because it's really starting to look run down, and I'm curious to know if there's any plan to revitalize that.
No, he just needs to get businesses in there.
Yeah.
And his big thing is he needs a red light. That's what he tells me.
Is that something that's in the works? Is that gonna become a reality?
Well, we would like to.
Yeah, well, that's a question for the group. So I'm going to drop our survey in the chat again for anybody who just joined us. But we're trying to get a sense from folks of where you think a signal would make the most sense. So if we were going to put one in the vicinity somewhere of the shopping center, would it make the most sense at Longview, where we do see a lot of traffic? You know, that's in the midst of schools and the park where people are trying to cross and access. We thought about putting a signal, creating kind of a new entrance for the shopping center at Cherry Way, which we would need to make a public right of way, connecting it to Washington, where we know the kids are already walking, between the school and the shopping center. Perhaps, you know, a little farther south between these two buildings, between Cherry and Hopewell, or what is sounding like a much less popular option, installing a signal at the existing entrance to the shopping center, which would carry traffic kind of right across the facade, again, along Washington. So any thoughts, preferences, or things that strike you about any of these ideas? We have a vote for Longview from Garrett in the chat. Thank you. That's a great comment. We were also trying to get a sense of what space could potentially be in play. You know, is this parking lot used to its capacity? I'm here, it's like, you know, it seems like it potentially is, given that this is an event center that sometimes sees hundreds of cars on a given evening.
Yes, that parking lot is to capacity, over capacity sometimes.
True.
So I can't remember. I think you can have 3 different weddings in there, can you?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
From
3
their
weddings.
perspective, the first impression is, oh my goodness, that's an ocean of parking. But yeah, if it's used, it's used.
There was
Yeah.
some almost out on the road the other day. It was so crowded.
Yeah, it stays busy when they have events there. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
It would be nice to see some type of development. You know, could additional apartments be brought to that center? Additional apartments, retail, would zoning allow for that to happen?
Inside the shopping center?
Hmm.
Yeah. If
Well,
he'd be
hopefully-
willing to build or sell, or I think he is trying to sell the one piece, but
Mhm.
it's not a very intriguing price.
Never, it never
Be a good
is.
location.
Yeah.
We're also interested, we want the report to include any zoning or subdivision land development regulations that would reinforce the kind of place we want Broadhead to become. So if you have ideas on that, we're all ears. In case anyone who just joined has not seen this yet, we are also discussing what to do with the intersection of Laird with Broadhead. And this was one idea that we're floating for feedback. This being, if you're familiar with engineering terms for intersections, this would be the Florida T, but without a signal, meaning that we have this bypass lane here, southbound Laird coming out from junior high would be right turn only. Also right turn in only that direction. Meaning that you can no longer jump across Broadhead, continue on Laird for that to work. So the configuration in the broader sense looks like this, where we're taking traffic that would be turning left instead through the neighborhood.
Did anybody from the Hopewell School District talk to you about that? Because the buses go all different ways coming out of there.
Mhm.
They sure do.
So that's a big deal if you take away across and left.
Mhm, yeah.
So if they haven't offered their input or some other suggestion so that they can do that, I don't think I could support it like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a great point. They were involved earlier in this process. We'll have to make sure if this is on the table that we run this by them specifically and get their response. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, all the buses coming from the junior high, you know, at the end of the day, they got to go every direction. So
Right. Yes, that would be a concern.
One of the other concerns that I could potentially see with like this model is that Broadhead Road does kind of have a bit of a hill, so there's a curve. You can't necessarily see too far down past the landscaping business there.
Mhm.
So whenever you're in that one turning lane to go down towards the park, that could potentially be kind of scary, trying to pray that you don't get hit.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. And someone brought up earlier this excellent point that coming out of the park, you're on that slope and sitting at that intersection waiting for your gap in traffic could be a little harrowing. Do you have any final thoughts or suggestions for us? I know we'll get booted back to the main room in a moment or two.
The final thought that I would have, just looking at the big plan right now, maybe something by the cemetery. People consistently hit the gate to the cemetery coming
Mhm.
around the corners, so that could be a major improvement and save some cost for the township, certainly.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I remember in our field view, somebody had told us about that. We were looking for the spot and couldn't find it and then saw the fence that was down. I thought, oh, there it is.
That's 2 or 3 times a year, Jenny.
Oh, goodness.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you've probably been spammed with this link a little too much, but there's our survey link one more time. Please let us know what you think about these ideas. We'll have all of the survey links for all the rooms with the sketches and all on the project website, which I'll also drop in the chat. If you'd like to check out the